President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Mozambican counterpart, Filipe Nyusi, will today take part in the third edition of the Bi-National Commission between the two countries. Yesterday, the security cluster of the meeting said it planned to deal with criminal elements affecting Mozambique and South Africa. Newzroom Afrika's Pelane Phakgadi is in Pretoria for us. He joins us live now for an update. Pelane, good morning to you. That security cluster meeting between the two countries, give us a bit more detail as to what exactly was discussed about these criminal elements.
Yesterday, the Police Minister Phakgadi did make mention of hijackings, a hijacking syndicate that seems to be quite prevalent here in our country and as well as going across the border to Mozambique. And he also talked about kidnappings, seemingly some of them aiding terrorism in the SADC region, because the ransom that is demanded, some research is looking at pinpointing it in the direction of saying that the monies are used for some terrorism act, and therefore hence there is an intelligence-led team that has been set up, and that particular team is dealing decisively with the issues around kidnappings. They are investigating them, and as well as the syndicate of vehicles being transported from South Africa into Mozambique. You've known that in the bushes between the borderline of Mozambique and South Africa, there's been a number of vehicles that the SANDF has really come through to intercept. Quite SUV bakkies as well. They are the ones that have been intercepted quite largely, and the fact that there are quite a number of vehicles of which were found by Mozambican officials in that side of their borderline, and the processes are in place to try and return them to their owners here in South Africa. But that is just the security cluster issues that the Bi-National Commission here had talked about. There was issues around the minerals, issues around defense, there's issues as well around the transportation of goods, in particular from the mining sector, of which they've chosen the Mozambican border to be their harbor of choice, where they transport the minerals that they've mined here in South Africa to different consumers across the world. So quite a number of ministers were here, 7, 8 of them from President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, where they are in meetings with the Mozambican counterparts, in particular to deal with international relations, safety in the SADC region, and as well as elsewhere in the world. They have mutual concerns as far as the Ukraine-Russia war, and you've seen with that statement from the presidency that there has been some interaction with President Cyril Ramaphosa and President Vladimir Putin there, and I'm sure those are some of the things that he would want to report back to this particular commission and give us an indication as to perhaps what was the content of that very cell phone interaction that he had with Putin, and as well as to give the rest of the South African area some context as to where the standpoint is as far as South Africa is concerned on the Russia-Ukraine war. So we expect as well that the ministers here again will be here, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Minerals, the Minister of Trade and Industry. You have seen the Higher Education Minister yesterday, Home Affairs was also here. So the entourage is quite large, and as soon as the President comes through here, will then be in a position to give you what is the latest as far as treaties are concerned and bilateral relations are concerned. As far as signing, we do know that there have been 70 signatories that have been signed as far as trade is concerned since the inception of this Bi-National Commission back in 2011, the first meeting being in 2015, another in 2017, and this is the third one of where the relations between Mozambique and South Africa are ready to be enforced once more.
You touch on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Pelane, and that particular story, it's taking a very worrying element to it, and there is at least talk at the moment through the words of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is accusing Ukraine of possibly veering towards the biological warfare between Russia and Ukraine. That's a very worrying development, Pelane, and we say this on the back of what the President of South Africa announced yesterday, that he had had a phone call with his Russian counterpart who requested for South Africa to play the mediation role. I suspect this is also going to almost turn that meeting between South Africa and Mozambique on its head.
Well, the question really is, as you rightfully put it, who is then the requester as far as coming through to say that South Africa must come through to mediate. Of course, there are biological relations that one could add to as far as the relationship with Russia and South Africa is concerned, with the apartheid system being aided through by Russia to be defeated in some way, one point or another. So the question is, we have seen not only yourself, but among a lot of other senior reporters within the country talking about the relationship that, what Biden has said from the USA, that any person or country rather that is coming through to relate themselves or even sympathize, as far as sympathizing with Russia is concerned, perhaps there may be some sort of reaction, and the reaction is that some of those questions which of course might affect South Africa and Southern Africa as a whole, and the question really has to go to the president as really, what kind of the relationship is it that he currently has? Of course, we do know we are with BRICS, but what is the relationship that South Africa and Russia currently have, and what are the talks? What's the content of that very cell phone interactions he had with Vladimir Putin, and of course, what was possibly the outcomes, and what kind of interventions is he going to be bringing forth? Naledi Pandor yesterday, the Minister of International Relations, saying that the country cannot just wait and stand, and as far as Mozambique and South Africa relations are concerned, they have to forge some sort of a relation and intervention as far as they can. If there is a role that they can play, then they should be playing that role. The role and the determination of that role, perhaps the president could be able to enlighten us, and of course whether or not he's worried that the West, as people would put it, the Europe and as well as the USA might want to retaliate to some of the stance should he make his stance known, and what stance is that?
Phakgadi, thank you very much for that update. We'll be watching that meeting very closely. As soon as the two presidents have an interaction with members of the media, we are trying to see if we can take you there.